Alright, now that week 5 is almost over, we still have the Redskins going up against the Saints tonight. And since apparently Dirk Coder still wants to keep Mike Smith around, saying that he's not a problem for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, let me just pull up some stats right now. We are currently 2-2 in the NFC South Division, with the Atlanta Falcons trailing behind us with 1 win, 4 losses. And we face them next week. Allow me to pull up some offensive stats and some defensive stats to show you where our problems lie. First off, for total yards per game, sacks included, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are averaging 432.75 yards a game with an average 28 points per game based on our scores. Now that's fine. Our offensive coordinator knows what he's doing there, mixing up the run and pass. But it's all in vain if our opponents are scoring an average of 35 points per game, roughly 35 points per game, with an average yard gain of 445.75 yards per game, or 446 yards per game. Where do you think the fault lies on that? Our defense. And who do you think our defense is manned by? Dirk Coder. Mike Smith. Sure, we're getting some turnovers, don't get me wrong. Our defense does pretty well in the turnover category for some reason. But in yards per game, I'm sorry, but our defense has lots of porous holes that Mike Smith absolutely needs to fill up. And he hasn't been able to do that. And I think the incident with Chicago, blowing us out 48-10, is proof enough that Mike Smith is way in over his head with his defensive scheme. I mean, sure, you can blame the linebacker coach, you can blame the defensive line coach, you can blame the defensive back coach for whatever bullshit occurs. You can blame the defensive coach for allowing 2 tight ends to catch long touchdown passes from both their respective quarterbacks. But who do you think oversees what goes on between the defensive back coach, the defensive line coach, and the linebacker coach? The defensive coordinator, that's who. So before you start blaming anybody else, you should look at Mike Smith and say, you know what? You're responsible for why our defense sucks. I mean, yeah, in a press conference you said you took responsibility for yourself when you said that it's everybody's fault for Chicago's loss. But I think the fault primarily lies within Mike Smith. And for you to say he's not a problem pretty much shows how much you're willing to let a cancer run our defense. A cancer who is probably going to have the defense give up 500 yards when we go to face Atlanta in their Georgia Dome. A team that you two have been with before you got fired from it, you're willing to make the defense do a piss job just to give Atlanta a win they don't need. Is it any wonder why I say Mike Smith is a problem? Because it's not the first time I've noticed that the defense slacks. Lackadaisical. It's been lackadaisical throughout the entire 2017 season, and now it's becoming more of an issue with the 2018 season when he can't even shop for free agents to replace an injury reserved Chris Conte, when you got cornerbacks doing all that they can but they're still getting burned by wide receivers and tight ends. I don't get it. I don't get it. Levante David and Quan Alexander and Gerald McCoy are studs on defense, yet they can't do shit to help us win games now. It's all on Mike Smith. He needs to take accountability for himself, and following this bye week, he needs to instill a defensive game plan for his guys if they want to have a chance to shut down Atlanta's offense. Because Julio Jones, though he may not be the same Julio Jones as a year before, he's still looking like a pretty goddamn. He's still looking like a very scary monster to deal with. That and the rise of Calvin Ridley, you have a dual threat wide receiver duo who can put up a 30 burger on us if they wanted. Who could put up 35 points against our 28 points. Who could beat our defense down to the ground because you're not willing to invest any effort to shop for guys that can improve our defense. You're not willing to put in any effort to say, you know what, for our defensive drills, we're going to focus on shutting down the wide receivers and force the quarterback to go to his running game, where we're going to have Vita Vea and Gerald McCoy rush on the inside to try to get the offensive line backed up so the running back doesn't have anywhere to go. We need a shutdown defense, and Mike Smith isn't giving it to us yet. So as far as I'm concerned, fuck Mike Smith, and I hope at the end of this season he gets replaced by someone who's actually willing to give us a shutdown defense, who's actually willing to give us turnovers when they matter the most, who's willing to keep an offense at bay to give our offense a chance to score some points. I don't see anything with Mike Smith except disappointment and additional yards gained where they shouldn't be gained. So you know what? For this, fuck Mike Smith, and fuck you, Dirk Coder, for defending his sorry ass.